The apartment door creaked open, and I froze, paintbrush midstroke, as my neighbor's broad shoulders filled the frame. I was alone, shirtless, with music blaring and paint splattered across my hands. Vulnerable in a way I hadn't planned to be. Then Ethan, the guy who'd always seemed untouchably straight, locked eyes with me, and something unspoken sparked in the air. I'm Julian Harper, 25, a graphic designer with a penchant for late-night painting sessions in my cramped Brooklyn apartment. My life was a mosaic of deadlines, coffee runs, and dodging questions about my love life from my nosy but well-meaning sister, Lena. I'd been out since I was 17, proud but guarded, navigating a world that didn't always make space for guys like me. My apartment, a fifth-floor walk-up with creaky floors and a view of the city's jagged skyline, was my sanctuary. That night, I was lost in my art, headphones blasting indie rock, when Ethan knocked. Ethan Caldwell, 27, lived across the hall. He was the kind of guy you'd cast as the all-American hero in a rom-com. Blonde, athletic, with a smile that could charm anyone. He'd moved in 6 months ago, and we'd exchanged polite nods, small talk about the weather, or complaints about the building's ancient elevator. I'd caught myself staring at him more than once. His easy confidence, the way his laugh echoed in the hallway, but I'd written it off as a pointless crush. Ethan was straight, or so I thought. "Julian, you okay in there?" His voice cut through the music. I yanked off my headphones, heart racing, suddenly aware of the paint smeared across my chest. "Door was ajar," he said, stepping inside, his blue eyes scanning the room. "Thought I'd check." "I'm fine," I stammered, setting down my brush. "Just painting." My canvas, a chaotic swirl of blues and golds, sat on an easel by the window. Ethan's gaze lingered on it, then on me, and I felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with my lack of a shirt. "Looks intense," he said, nodding at the canvas. "Didn't know you were an artist." He closed the door behind him, and the click felt louder than it should have. I laughed, nervous, trying to shake off the tension. "Yeah, well, it's more therapy than art." He stepped closer, his boots scuffing the hardwood. "Mind if I hang out? My place is quiet tonight." There was something in his tone, hesitant, almost vulnerable, that I hadn't heard before. Ethan, the guy who always seemed so sure of himself, looked like he was carrying a weight I couldn't see. I nodded, gesturing to the couch. "Sure. Want a beer?" He accepted, and soon we were sitting, bottles in hand, talking about nothing and everything. The conversation flowed: movies, music, the absurdity of our landlord's latest repair excuses. But there was an undercurrent, a pull I couldn't ignore. Every time our eyes met, the room felt smaller, warmer. Hours passed, and the city lights glittered outside. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his voice quieter now. "You ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" he asked. I blinked, caught off guard. "Like you're following a script you didn't write?" I nodded slowly. "All the time. Growing up, I felt like I was supposed to be someone else. Straighter, tougher, whatever. Took me years to figure out who I actually am." I paused, unsure if I'd said too much. Ethan's jaw tightened, and he stared at his beer bottle like it held answers. "I've been questioning things," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "Stuff I never thought I'd question." My heart thudded. Was he saying what I thought he was? I wanted to ask, but fear held me back. Instead, I said, "You don't have to have it all figured out, Ethan. Nobody does." He looked at me then, really looked, and the air shifted. His hand brushed mine on the couch, a fleeting touch that sent a jolt through me. "Julian," he said, his voice raw. "I don't know what I'm doing here, but I don't want to leave." I swallowed hard, my mind racing. This was Ethan, straight Ethan, the guy who dated women, who played pickup basketball with his buddies, who I'd never dared to hope might feel this way. But here he was, inches from me, his eyes searching mine for something I was terrified to give. "Stay," I said, barely audible, and he did. That night changed everything. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and I fell into a rhythm that felt both thrilling and fragile. He'd come over after work, we'd cook terrible dinners, laugh over bad reality TV, and talk until the early hours. There were moments, his hand lingering on my shoulder, a shared glance that lasted too long, where I thought he might cross the line. But he didn't. Not yet. I learned more about him. Ethan grew up in a small Ohio town, raised by parents who expected him to follow a straight and narrow path. College, job, marriage, kids. He'd done most of it, graduated with a business degree, landed a marketing job in the city, but the weight of those expectations clung to him. "I've always done what I was supposed to," he told me one night, sitting cross-legged on my floor with a pizza box between us. "But being around you, it's like I'm seeing myself for the first time." His words hit me hard. I'd spent years building walls to protect myself from rejection, from the world's judgment. But Ethan's honesty cracked something open in me. I wanted to be brave for him, to show him it was okay to question, to explore, to feel. One evening, as rain pounded against the windows, we sat on my couch, closer than usual. The TV was on, but neither of us was watching. "Julian," he said, his voice low, "can I ask you something?" I nodded, my pulse quickening. "When did you know you were gay?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "I was 15. I had a crush on this guy in my art class. Took me a while to accept it, but once I did, it was like freedom. Scary, but real." I looked at him. "Why do you ask?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached for my hand, his fingers trembling slightly. "I think I might be feeling something. For you." The world stopped. My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. "Ethan," I whispered, "are you sure?" He didn't speak. Instead, he leaned in, his lips brushing mine, tentative at first, then deeper, more certain. It was a kiss that felt like a confession, raw and unguarded. When we pulled back, his eyes were wide, like he'd just discovered a part of himself he hadn't known existed. "I didn't expect this," he said, a shaky laugh escaping him. "But it feels right." That kiss was the beginning, but it wasn't the end of the complications. Ethan was wrestling with years of conditioning, of a life that told him who he was supposed to be. I was falling for him hard, but I knew this wasn't just about us. It was about him finding himself, and I wasn't sure where that would leave me. The days after our kiss were a blur of stolen moments and unspoken questions. Ethan would show up at my door with takeout, his smile tentative but warm, and we'd fall into an easy rhythm. Cooking, talking, laughing. But there was always a shadow, a hesitation in his eyes, like he was standing at the edge of a cliff, unsure whether to jump. We didn't label what was happening. I didn't push, though every part of me wanted to. I'd been out for years, but for Ethan this was uncharted territory. He was unraveling a lifetime of assumptions about himself, and I could see the conflict in the way he'd pull back after a touch lingered too long or a glance felt too heavy. One night, we walked through Prospect Park, the autumn leaves crunching under our feet. The air was crisp, and the city's hum felt distant. Ethan was quieter than usual, his hands stuffed in his jacket pockets. "You okay?" I asked, nudging his shoulder. He stopped walking, staring at the ground. "I told my brother about you," he said finally. My stomach dropped. His brother, Nate, was a former Marine, all bravado and traditional values. Ethan had mentioned him before, always with a mix of admiration and frustration. "What did he say?" I asked, bracing myself. Ethan's laugh was bitter. "He thinks I'm confused. Said I just need to get back to normal. Whatever that means." He kicked a pebble, sending it skittering across the path. He doesn't get it. I don't even get it sometimes. I reached for his hand, but he flinched, glancing around like someone might see. Stung, but I understood. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone, I said. Not Nate, not me, not the world. You're allowed to figure this out at your own pace. He looked at me, his eyes softening. You make it sound so easy. It's not, I admitted. But it's worth it. That night, back at my apartment, Ethan kissed me again. This time with a fierceness that took my breath away. It was like he was trying to prove something, to himself, to me, to the doubts in his head. I pulled back, searching his face. You don't have to rush this, I said. I'm not going anywhere. But the world wasn't as patient. A week later, I got a frantic text from Ethan. Need to talk. Can I come over? When he arrived, his face was pale, his jaw tight. Nate showed up at my place, he said, pacing my living room. He saw your jacket on my couch. Started asking questions. I panicked, Julian. I told him we're just friends. The words hit like a punch. I tried to keep my voice steady. Okay, so what now? I don't know, he said, running a hand through his hair. He's staying with me for a few days. He keeps talking about setting me up with some girl from his office. I feel like I'm suffocating. I wanted to be angry, to tell him to stand up to Nate, to be honest. But I saw the fear in his eyes, the weight of a life he was trying to rewrite. You don't have to decide everything tonight, I said. But you can't keep running from this. It's not just about us. It's about you. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. I know. I need time. I sat beside him, close but not touching. Take all the time you need. Just don't shut me out. The next few days were tense. Ethan's texts were sporadic, his visits non-existent. I threw myself into work, designing logos for a new client, but my mind kept drifting to him. I wondered if I'd pushed too hard, if I'd misread the signs. Maybe he wasn't ready. Maybe he never would be. Then, one evening, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Ethan, his eyes red-rimmed, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Nate's gone, he said. We fought. I told him I'm not straight, that I'm figuring it out, but I'm not who he thinks I am. My heart leapt, but I kept my voice calm. What did he say? He didn't take it well, Ethan said, his voice breaking. Called me a disappointment. Said I'm throwing my life away. He looked at me, raw and unguarded. But I don't care. For the first time, I don't care what he thinks. I want this. I want us. I pulled him into a hug, feeling his body relax against mine. You're not a disappointment, I whispered. You're brave. That night, we didn't kiss or make grand declarations. We just sat together, watching the city lights, letting the silence say what words couldn't. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Ethan's confession to his brother was a turning point, but it didn't erase the challenges. He was still navigating a world that felt new and unsteady, and I was learning how to be there for him without losing myself. We spent more time together, carving out moments in the chaos of our lives. Late-night walks, coffee runs to the corner deli, quiet evenings sketching while he read. But the outside world kept creeping in. One afternoon, we were at a cafe in Williamsburg, sharing a table cluttered with empty cups and half-eaten pastries. Ethan was telling me about a new project at work when a group of his coworkers walked in. I saw him tense, his smile faltering. Hey, Caldwell! One of them, a guy named Derek, called out. Didn't know you hung out here. Ethan's laugh was forced. Yeah, just grabbing coffee with Julian. He didn't call me his boyfriend, didn't touch my hand. I told myself it was fine, he was still figuring things out. But it hurt more than I expected. Derek joined us, oblivious to the tension. He was loud, friendly, the kind of guy who dominated conversations without meaning to. You should come to the game this weekend, he told Ethan. Bring your friend here. He nodded at me, and I forced a smile. Ethan mumbled something non-committal, and Derek left, promising to text him details. As soon as he was gone, Ethan let out a breath. Sorry, he said, not meeting my eyes. I didn't know how to. It's okay, I lied. You don't have to tell everyone yet. But it wasn't okay. That night, back at my apartment, I couldn't hold it in. Ethan, I get that this is hard, but I can't keep being your secret. It's not fair to either of us. He looked stricken. I'm not ashamed of you, Julian. I'm just scared. My coworkers, my family, they all expect me to be someone I'm not. I'm trying, but it's like I'm unlearning everything I thought I knew. I softened, seeing the truth in his words. I know, but I've spent years hiding parts of myself. I can't go back to that. I need you to meet me halfway. He nodded, reaching for my hand. I will. I promise. The next week, Ethan took a step. He invited me to a work event, a casual happy hour at a bar in Manhattan. It was small, just a few colleagues, but it felt huge. He introduced me as Julian, my boyfriend. His voice steady despite the nervous glint in his eyes. His coworkers were polite, some curious, others indifferent. Derek raised an eyebrow but clapped Ethan on the shoulder, saying, "Good for you, man. It wasn't perfect acceptance, but it was a start." Afterward, we walked home through the city, the night air cool against our skin. Ethan was quiet, but his hand was in mine, solid and warm. That felt good, he said finally. Scary, but good. But not everyone was as open. A few days later, Ethan got a call from his mother. Nate had told her everything. She wants me to come home, Ethan said, his voice flat. Says we need to talk. In person. I felt a knot in my stomach. Are you going? He nodded. I have to. She's my mom. But I'm not going to let her change my mind about this. About us. He left for Ohio the next day, promising to call. I tried to focus on work, on my art, but the silence was deafening. When he finally texted, 2 days later, it was brief. It's rough. She's not handling it well. I'll be back soon. I wanted to be there for him, but I felt helpless, stuck in Brooklyn while he faced his family alone. When Ethan returned, he looked exhausted, like he'd aged a year in a weekend. She thinks it's a phase, he said, sitting on my couch. Kept asking what she did wrong, like I'm broken or something. He paused, his eyes meeting mine. But I told her I'm happy. For the first time in a long time, I'm happy. I pulled him close, feeling the weight of his words. You're not broken, I said. You're you. And that's enough. The weeks that followed were a delicate balance. Ethan was trying, really trying, to live authentically, but the pushback from his family and the lingering fear of judgment made every step a battle. I admired his courage, but I was struggling too. Being with Ethan meant confronting my own fears. Of heartbreak, of being someone's experiment, of loving someone who might not be ready to love me back. One evening, we attended a local art gallery opening where I'd submitted a piece. It was a painting inspired by Ethan, a vibrant mix of blues and golds, capturing the chaos and beauty of falling for him. He stood beside me as strangers admired it, his arm brushing mine. This is about us, isn't it? He whispered, a shy smile tugging at his lips. I nodded, my throat tight. Yeah, it's you. He didn't say anything, but later, as we walked home, he stopped under a streetlight and kissed me, right there in the open. It was bold, unguarded, a declaration to the world. I'm done hiding, he said. I want this. I want you. Those words carried us through the next month, but life has a way of testing resolve. Ethan's company announced a team-building retreat, and he invited me along as his +1. It was a weekend in the Catskills, hiking, bonfires, the kind of thing that sounded idyllic but made me nervous. His coworkers knew about us, but this would be the first time we'd be together in such a close-knit setting. The retreat started well. We hiked through dense forests, the air sharp with pine, and laughed with his colleagues around a crackling fire. But on the second night, things shifted. Derek, who'd been friendly before, got drunk and confrontational. "So, Ethan," he slurred, loud enough for everyone to hear, "you're really doing this? The whole gay thing?" The group went silent. Ethan's face flushed, but he didn't back down. "Yeah, Derek, I am. Got a problem with that." Derek laughed, a mean edge to it. "Just seems like a choice, man. You were fine before." I felt my fists clench, but Ethan spoke first, his voice steady. "It's not a choice. It's who I am. And if you can't handle that, that's your problem, not mine." The tension hung heavy, but one of Ethan's co-workers, a woman named Priya, broke it. "Let's change the subject," she said, shooting Derek a look. "Anyone want s'mores?" The group moved on, but the moment lingered. Later, alone in our cabin, Ethan was quiet, his confidence shaken. "He's wrong," I said, sitting beside him. "You know that, right?" He nodded, but his eyes were distant. "I just hate that I have to keep proving myself. To my family, to guys like Derek. It's exhausting." I took his hand. "You don't have to prove anything to me." He looked at me, his expression softening. "I know. That's why I keep going." The retreat ended, and we returned to Brooklyn stronger. But the challenges didn't stop. Ethan's mother kept calling, pleading for him to reconsider. His brother sent texts that alternated between anger and guilt trips. I could see the toll it was taking, but Ethan didn't pull away. He leaned into us, into the life we were building. One night, he showed up at my apartment with a small canvas and a grin. "I tried painting," he said, revealing a messy but heartfelt abstract piece. "It's not as good as yours, but it's for you." I laughed, pulling him into a hug. "It's perfect." Winter settled over Brooklyn, blanketing the city in snow and quiet. Ethan and I were closer than ever, but the world still tested us. His family's rejection weighed on him, and I could feel the strain in the way he'd go quiet sometimes, lost in thought. But we held on, finding joy in small moments. Cooking breakfast together, sketching in my apartment, stealing kisses in the hallway. One evening, as we sat by my window watching snowfall, Ethan turned to me. "I want to tell you something," he said, his voice steady but serious. "I'm done letting other people define me. My mom, Nate, Derek, they don't get to decide who I am. I love you, Julian, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore." My heart stopped, then soared. "I love you too," I said, the words spilling out like they'd been waiting forever. We kissed, slow and certain, the world outside fading away. It wasn't just a moment, it was a promise. But life doesn't wrap up neatly. A week later, Ethan got a job offer in Chicago. It was a promotion, a chance to lead a new team, but it meant leaving New York. Leaving me. "I don't know what to do," he admitted, sitting on my couch, his hands clasped tightly. "It's a great opportunity, but I can't imagine not seeing you every day." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice barely steady. He looked at me, his eyes fierce. "I want you, but I also want to do something for myself, not just what everyone else expects." Does that make sense? It did, more than I wanted to admit. I'd spent years carving out my own path, and I couldn't ask Ethan to give up his. "Take the job," I said finally. "We'll figure it out. Together." The weeks before he left were bittersweet. We spent every moment we could together, making memories to hold on to. The night before his flight, we stood on my fire escape, the city sparkling below us. "This isn't goodbye," he said, pulling me close. "It's just a new chapter." I nodded, my throat tight, You changed my life, Ethan. You walked in here, and I didn't know how much I needed you. He smiled, brushing a tear from my cheek. You changed mine too. I was lost until I found you. Ethan moved to Chicago and we made it work, long-distance calls, weekend visits, love letters that felt like something out of an old movie. It wasn't easy, but it was ours. And in the end, that was enough. Months later, I visited him in Chicago. We stood by Lake Michigan, the wind sharp and cold, and he took my hand. I'm still figuring things out, he said. But I know one thing for sure. I'm better with you. I looked at him, the man who'd walked into my life as a stranger and left as my home. We're better together, I said. And as the waves crashed against the shore, I knew we'd face whatever came next. Together, unapologetically, ourselves.